Kia ora, it's Kerry here. I'm just near the main road into Port Waikato, not far from the middle of the community. And as you can see, I'm at the location of the Waikato Heads Mission Station, where Robert Maunsell was from 1839 to 1854. He, as I indicated earlier, was offered land, as you can see, 8 miles up the river at Te Kahonga by the Kukatais, by Ngāti Tipa, and so he moved up there. I'm just going to pan around now, and you'll see that it's just basically an empty piece of land. There's the main road, and this is the road that goes up to Ora Marae. But here in March 1840, something quite significant happened. So 1,500 Maori were gathered here for a hui, and Robert Maunsell was among them, and it was arranged that the treaty would be brought down. It was moving steadily south from Koroderiko, of course, from Waitangi, and it was to come down here to be signed. But the Manukau chiefs were reluctant to sign, and so the person bringing the treaty down to be signed here stayed a few extra days up at Whitu, and the 1,500 Maori gathered here, including many of the main chiefs of the Waikato, were to disperse. And so Maunsell arranged for a copy of the Maori version of the treaty, the official version. He translated it for people verbally here, and then many of them signed. I think the figure is not, I can't remember exactly, but it was 35 to 37 chiefs signed the treaty here. There wasn't enough space on the Maori version for all the signatories, so I think 2 signed the Maori version. There were several copies had been made of the treaty unofficially, I think, and so that was one that was on. But then there was an English draft, which was completely unofficial, but it had plenty of room for signatories, and so the rest of the chiefs signed. Now it was anticipated, the person who was coming down eventually arrived, but 3 days after the people had dispersed from here. They of course would have gone inland to where their marae were, where their paths were. Now the person who was to come here and who eventually arrived 3 days late was to carry on down to Raglan to gain more signatories, but discovered that most of those signatories that he'd anticipated picking up had actually signed here. And so he returned to Awhitu, to the Manukau Peninsula, in the hope of using the names of the signatories here in the Waikato as persuading them of the Manukau to sign. And I'm not sure how successful he was. I think a few more signed at Awhitu. So this is a very, very historic area. Even though you wouldn't know it, it's simply a piece of property in the middle of Port Waikato with a sign, a kind of a very discreet sign off to the edge that hardly anyone would see, I think. But it's a very significant piece of land, and a place where the treaty was signed, March 1840. Ka kite anō.